Joe Biden just stabbed Kamala Harris right in the back. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends. As I pointed out on X last night, you want to talk about shivving Harris right in the back. Joey, Dementia Joe, did an absolutely, there's no other way to describe it, a preposterous interview on The View. And I have to say this. I always knew those clowns on The View are an absolute joke. I mean, they really are. Whether it's Whoopi Goldberg, who has no idea what the Holocaust was about, or the rabid Trump haters, Sonny Hostin, the yeller, the screamer, Anna Navarro, and then, of course, maybe one of the biggest idiots on the entire planet, Joy Behar. So when you put those four girls together, okay, you put those four women together, ay, 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 really, ay, 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 okay, it's, you know, it's going to be a train wreck. But the way they fawned over Joe Biden, apparently it was the first time in the history of The View that they had a president on to talk about issues. Well, they had Joe Biden on. And to say sycophantic, to say fawning, to say throwing themselves literally all over the guy. Joy Behar at one point puts her head on Biden's shoulder, and they're saying how much they love him. In fact, one of them compared Joe Biden, I swear to you, to George Washington. He's the greatest president since George Washington. This is the stuff, it would even make Stalinists, really, under, Stalin, blush. This was how preposterous the propaganda was. So, it was honestly, it was disgraceful, it was shameful, it was so bad, so fawning, it was actually borderline comical. But there was news made. And the big news, as I pointed out, is that Joe Biden really stuck it to Kamala Harris. And he did it in a way that's classic Biden. What he told the women on The View, those crazy moonbats on The View, was that while he was president, during his entire administration, he told them, I delegated everything to her. Everything. I delegated domestic policy to her. I delegated foreign policy to her. Basically, he said, she was my co-president. And so, if you want to know what I stand for, that's the exact same thing Kamala stands for. And as I pointed out, what he's now saying, and there's no way now she can get around it, this clip will be used over and over and over all the way until November 5th. I believe now he has handed Trump the election on a silver platter. She now owns the Biden-Harris record. What he said was, whether it's inflation, whether it's the economy, whether it's the border, whether it's crime, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's the Middle East, I don't care. Take your pick. She owns it. I delegated all of that to her. We were co-presidents on every major issue, domestic and foreign policy, throughout my entire 3.5 years in power. So, my friends, she can't run from his record. And this is the fundamental now contradiction at the heart of her campaign. This is the conundrum that she's in. On the one hand, she's trying to go on about how she's distancing herself from Biden, that she has new ideas, new policies, a new generation of leadership, as she puts it. But on the other hand, she needs Biden and the record to amplify her experience and her credentials. Look at me. I'm vice president. Look at me. Look at everything we accomplished. But she has to run from his policies. That means she has to run from her own record. She can't. She's like quicksand. She's just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And so now what Biden has essentially done is he has wrapped his entire failed administration right around Kamala's neck, saying, no, on every major decision, every major issue of consequence, the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, she was with me every step of the way. On the massive spending that triggered all of this inflation, she was with me every step of the way. On the border and the unprecedented invasion that has allowed 15 to 20 million illegals to flood and pour into our country, she was with me every step of the way. My friends, what he just did now, he gave her no breathing room to break from him or his failed, dismal presidency. And I'm telling you, this was a colossal a stab in the back to Kamala Harris. So if President Trump now wants to put the finishing coup de grace, as the French would say, the final blow, the final nail in her political electoral coffin, all you got to do now is run Joe Biden's interview on The View again and again in ad after ad. And what I found particularly disgusting from The View in particular, and I want you to hear this cut. This is Joe Biden asked by them. Now, it takes him a while to get the answers out. He was really slow. I mean, at times it was embarrassing. He just stops. He's in mid-sentence. I'm not kidding. He just stops. He freezes. He's looking at the camera. You could tell there's nothing there anymore. And the women keep trying to rescue him by injecting words or trying to put words in his mouth. And then he eventually gets to finish his thought. So bear with me. I'm not going to play too many of these cuts. Believe me, I don't want to put you to sleep. But listen now to Joe Biden saying, could I have beaten Trump? Oh, yeah, I could have beaten Trump. He's a loser. Roll cut 9B. Mike.
Do you think had you stayed in the race, would you have won?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was confident I would beat Trump.
Listen, I didn't like the way they did it.
So, very presidential, by the way, you know? He's a very presidential guy. So let me get this straight. You get your clock cleaned in a debate to the point that it's the most pathetic, embarrassing debate performance in the history of presidential debates. You do so badly, he beats you so badly, like a drum, that your own party overthrows you in a coup. And you're calling him the loser? The guy that had to suspend and end his campaign after insisting over and over and over, I'm not going anywhere. This was just a bad night. So, on top of all of this, they're insulting Trump. And all I'm asking myself is, well, if you could have beaten him, why'd you leave the race? If you have no doubt you would have beaten Trump, so why is Kamala now the nominee and not you? You phony, you fraud, you. Everything about that interview shows you what is wrong with the Democratic Party and with the liberal media today. They should be ashamed of themselves. You want to talk about, I'm telling you, it wasn't even this bad under Stalin. It's not even this bad, I'm not kidding, under Xi Jinping or Putin in Russia. The way they went on, his economy was magnificent. The border, what problem at the border? Oh, my God. Things have never, it's morning again in America. This is what they kept telling the audience over and over and over again. That they have Putin on the run in Ukraine. That his stewardship over the Middle East, they've never seen anything like this. Anna Navarro was going on about, the diversity in your cabinet. I think a cabinet of unqualified competence and capability. As I said, another one came out and said, the best, greatest president since George Washington. This is the best that you have in terms of trying to sell this guy? Even my 12-year-old Ava was laughing at him. My friends, it's not going to work. They're going to try to sell us Bidenism. It don't work. Biden now says Harris owns his entire administration. Is she now finished?
See, but I truly believe that his legacy will be etched in the history books as Washington, as someone who put that ego aside and put his country first.
He also
He's
so
decent.
That's
definitely his legacy.
Yeah, that's the just to give you a little taste of what that interview on The View with Joe Biden sounded like. Just to give you a little flavor. I mean, yeah, George Washington, huh? I mean, I got to tell you, really, I've been doing this for a long time. I really have. But I got to tell you, no one's ever piled the bull, you know what, the bull crap. No one has piled it that high. I mean, that is some serious, hardcore BS. I mean, holy mackerel. I mean, I would be ashamed. No, really. I'd be like, look, I don't care how much you pay me. I can't say this. I have some self-respect. I'm not gonna say this. George Washington? What are you guys on drugs? Anyway, that apparently was Alyssa Farah Griffin. So there you go. Who's apparently, supposed to be a Republican. She worked under Judas Mike Pence when Pence was Trump's vice president. So there you go. She's a never Trump Republican, a rhino. And this is the kind of garbage that comes out of her mouth. All right, 6:22 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, here it is. This is Joe Biden. He's asked by Sonny Hostin if he has any advice for Kamala on winning the election in November. And this is when he stuck the knife in. Listen to what he says. She's got no breathing room anymore. Roll cut 11A, Mike.
As the only person who has ever beaten Trump, what advice have you given the vice president about how to win?
Be herself. Look, she is smart as hell, number one.
Yeah.
She's tough. She was a first-rate prosecutor. She is a United States senator of significant consequence. And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
Oh, this is the line. Forget the rest of the interview. I mean, we could talk about it, obviously. But this is the line that if I'm the Trump campaign, I can't believe my good fortune. And I don't believe this was an accident. I don't believe it at all, as everybody is commenting. I'm not the only one. They're like, he said what? Now she owns his entire failed, dismal record. No breathing room whatsoever. Foreign policy, domestic policy. Hey, I delegated it all to her. As he basically said, we were co-presidents. There's nothing I did that she couldn't do. That's why I said, Kamala, you got it. Everything is yours. I want to play it again. And to Trump's people, if you're not already cutting the ad, what are you waiting for? Roll cut 11A again. Play it again, Mike.
As the only person who has ever beaten Trump, what advice have you given the vice president about how to win?
Be herself. Look, she is smart as hell, number one.
Yeah.
She's tough. She was a first-rate prosecutor. She is a United States senator of significant consequence. And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
There you go. I mean, and notice he does it in that Washington sleazy way, which I hate. You know, so they start with the praise. Oh, she's smart. She's tough. She was a prosecutor. I thought she was a senator. Hey, come on. Hey. There's nothing I did that she couldn't do. And these idiots on The View are forgive me, but they're so stupid. Really. You want to talk about nothing between the ears. Ay, ay, ay. Okay? I think they make Kamala look like Albert Einstein. Seriously. Okay, that's how dumb they are. And they're like swallowing hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. If you're George Washington, what is she? What is she God? Is she Buddha? Like, what is she? Anyway, and like, yeah. And that's when he puts the knife in. Now, with a big smile on his face, as he's supposedly complimenting her. Oh, I delegated everything to her. Everything. Domestic, foreign policy, everything. How now can you claim to be able or even want to fix the problems in our country when you own all of these problems? You created this mess. And that's not even me now saying it. That's your former boss. In fact, still technically currently her boss. That's her president, the man that she served under, who now said, no, every policy we implemented, she was with me every step of the way. He just buried Kamala. Your reaction next. 6:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a lot of you are reacting to Biden's so-called, what interview? I mean, they were throwing themselves all over the guy yesterday. By the way, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. 617-266-6868 is the number. Joe just emailed this to me a couple minutes ago. Jeff, I think you missed the point the quote-unquote ladies on The View were trying to make. They tried to equate Biden to George Washington because Washington is dead. I got to tell you, he did not look good yesterday. Oh, man. I mean, and this is, with the makeup and, their editing and they with these, what is it, 4 or 5 of them constantly interjecting, trying to finish his sentences, helping him out every step of the way. And he still looked, what foot in the grave? He looked like a foot and a half in the grave. I mean, he's ready to go. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And he has declined. I got to say, in the last couple of months, I don't know if they're just not propping him up anymore with drugs or cocktails or whatever they were giving him. But the decline, holy mackerel, it is obvious. It is stark. This is another Joe who sent this to me on Messenger. And this was what he sent to me. And I think he's got a point here. Jeff, I don't believe this is Joe Biden doing this. I believe it's Jill Biden. She never wanted to let Biden step down. So as a result, he's sticking it to Kamala. I agree with Joe. It's a very, very perceptive point on his part. I completely agree with him. That line about I delegated everything in my presidency, everything, to, both foreign and domestic to her. That, I got to tell you, that to me, that strikes Jill Biden. That strikes me as Jill Biden. Oh, yeah? You pushed my husband out? You were the one that, along with Hillary and Obama and Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Pelosi, said, you know what? She's going to Kamala will invoke the 25th Amendment if you don't step aside. She was one of the coup plotters. You know, as Pelosi said to Biden on the phone, Joe, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Well, you know what? Blank you. You're not going to be able to claim that somehow you're different from Joe Biden, or that you're going to try to separate yourself from Joe Biden, because you're responsible for all of the policies of the Biden presidency. So how can you fix the mess when you're the one who helped create the mess? In fact, as Biden now said in his own words, you are an integral, fundamental, intricate part of the entire administration. Every major decision she now had a major role and hand in. That's Joe Biden on the record saying it. So Kamala can spin it now any way she wants. His words hang her. And that's why, if I'm Trump, this is a gift from the political gods. My question now to you, double-barreled question. Did Joe Biden hurt or help Kamala in this interview with on The View, number one? And number two, now that Biden has said she was a co-president, does this now give Trump the decisive edge in this election? 617-266-6868 is the number. And honestly, let's have a little bit of fun. Do you think this was really Jill Biden being vindictive and saying, okay, Joe, okay, now she's saying she's a new generation of leadership, Joe? Now she's trying to run as a different candidate, Joe? And distance herself from you, Joe? And say how she's got new ideas and new policies and she disowns now all of the criticisms of your administration? Well, you know what, Joe? We're going to show her you're going to do The View. And I don't care what you say, but you're going to say this. And there was Joe. She's smart. She's tough. Hell, she was a senator. She was a prosecutor. And then, bang, stuck the knife in. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Do you think Joe Biden's appearance on The View, was it intended, A, to help Kamala, B, to hurt Kamala? I'm just curious. What do you make of it? Why do you think he ultimately did the interview on The View? Was it A, to help her, or B, to hurt her? Personally, I'm a B all the way. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in National ER. You can also vote via X. I'm very active, as you can tell. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUHN is in National ER. Let's go to Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Oh, I was hearing a lot of that on that interview yesterday, Bruce. Boy, those women, those moonbats, they were howling yesterday, Bruce. Ay, ay, ay.
Well, I can tell you, it's a B because my name is Bruce, and I am from Woburn. And I'm going to tell you, what he did to her was wonderful. It was great because I know one thing for sure, Jeff. Israel's going into Lebanon. Russia's going into Ukraine. And our president, that should have been our president, is going to be elected. And they're out. I don't care what they say, how they paint this little picture, how she's so beautiful and smart and blah, 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 blah. Listen, he's as brain dead as he is. They're out. We're in. I'm sick of this crap. The whole country is sick of it. Let's take it back. And take it back now, Jeff. All done.
Well, Bruce, I got to tell you, I think you put your finger right on it. Look, before I get to Lebanon, on the Eastern Front now in Ukraine, Ukrainians now are collapsing. That front line of theirs is now collapsing. Putin now is starting to rack up some big victories. Zelensky's on the ropes, which is why he's desperate, which is why he needs a lot more money now. He's begging Biden for another $8 billion right now, as you and I speak. He was at the UN, he gave his speech, and now he's in Washington, and he's begging for cash because they're going to get routed now on the Eastern Front. The Ukrainian army is starting to seriously collapse. So Putin now is on the verge of delivering a real knockout blow in eastern Ukraine. So that situation now is escalating dangerously. You got obviously what's happening now in Lebanon. And as things stand right now, this thing could blow the election out of the water. Israel now is on the verge of a massive ground war into Lebanon. I mean, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, this is what the media all over the world is reporting. The Israeli media now says that Netanyahu has given the military, the IDF, the green light, the go-ahead to launch a massive ground invasion. Hezbollah now is digging in. They say they're not going to relinquish an inch of territory and that they're not going to stop their daily rocket attacks into northern Israel. So, and Blinken is powerless. According to him, he can't stop Netanyahu and Hezbollah. It looks like Iran wants to expand this war both on the southern front with Hamas and obviously on the northern front now with Hezbollah in Lebanon. So once Israel crosses into Lebanon, you're going to have an all-out war. And Lebanon is going to blow. Hezbollah and Israel, you're going to see massive casualties. There are going to be Israeli ground forces. They're going to go right into southern Lebanon and try to make a drive all the way to Beirut to flush out Hezbollah. Iran says that they will directly intervene on behalf of Hezbollah should Israel launch an all-out attack into Lebanon. And the entire Arab world now feels they're going to have no choice but to side with Lebanon against Israel. So it is a tinderbox, and it's about to blow. And where's Kamala Harris? Nowhere. Where's Joe Biden, that demented buffoon? He's calling Trump a loser on The View. On The View. This is going to change the election permanently. 650 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Okay, so many of you, I can't tell you how many of you, over the last couple of weeks, have been texting the Kuhner Man, emailing the Kuhner Man, messaging the Kuhner Man, saying, Jeff, there's going to be an October surprise. And what many of you are now saying, and I want to read a really interesting message I got on Messenger from Michael just a couple minutes ago. And this is what he wrote. Good morning, Jeff. I believe the View interview was the prelude to the October surprise of Joe Biden stepping down, making Kamala the sitting president. Now, many of you have been telling the Kuhner Man, as I said, on all these message boards, and and emails and everything else. Jeff, watch. There's an October surprise coming, and this is going to be the surprise. He's going to step down, maybe 3 weeks before the election, whatever it may be, a month before the election, and then say, my health, I just can't do it anymore. Pass the baton off to Kamala Harris. And this will make her now the incumbent. And why it's an October surprise, for many of you, that this would be a ploy of direct election interference. Why? Because, A, it would make Kamala then the first female president in the history of the United States. And she would be able to use that, breaking that glass ceiling, as a way to give her this boost in the polls. And a first female minority president of the United States. And so many of you are convinced, Jeff, this would electrify parts of her base. It would change the entire trajectory of the campaign, and that this could give her the extra few percentage points that she needs to put her over the top in November on election day. So my question to you, and Michael says, Jeff, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so. In other words, he doesn't want this to happen. So let me ask all of you, because I think it's a very, very interesting idea and certainly very plausible. Very, very plausible. Do you think we're going to have an October surprise? And what do you think it's going to be? And in particular, do you think that you're going to see Joe Biden step aside? I don't just mean as the nominee, literally now resign from the presidency and pass the torch on to Kamala, making her the president of the United States 3-4 weeks before the election, thereby hoping to give her a massive boost or bounce in the polls? What do you think? Do you think it would help her? Because look, the assumption is, yeah, it's going to really help her, Jeff. You see, I don't know. I think most Americans are going to say, this is crass, this is cynical, this is obvious. And I think the other thing is, I think it's going to blow up in their face. I could be wrong, but I think it'll boomerang against them. Because once they make her president, with the way she cackles, frankly, with the stupid things that come out of her mouth, that now with her as literally commander-in-chief, I think the country's going to say, whoa, it's one thing to think it, it's another thing to actually see it. And the country is going to recoil in horror. I don't think it would help her. I think it would really damage her. I could be wrong. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. And I want to just circle back very quick and go right to the phone lines, 617-266-6868. This war that is now looming in the Middle East, you really see now how the Democrats are dangerously out of touch. Biden has no clue. Biden is on the beach in Rehoboth. Biden is doing interviews on The View. Kamala Harris is completely out to lunch. When this war between Israel and Hezbollah breaks out, make no mistake, this is going to be a war between Iran and Israel. The entire Middle East is going to blow. The Middle East is going to be on fire. And the American people are going to say, another catastrophe on Biden's watch? Another entire region in flames on Biden's watch? It is going to make people want and yearn for Trump even more. And it's going to show again how unbelievably inept, incompetent, and out of their league and out of their depth Biden and Harris are. So by making her president with a massive war in the Middle East raging, it's going to make her seem even more incompetent and unfit to be president of the United States. Because I'm telling you, she has no clue what to do. Iran doesn't respect her, although they want her to win. Iran has come out and publicly said they want Kamala Harris in the White House. That should tell you everything you need to know. So, Kamala Harris will be seen as someone who can't control Israel, who can't control Hezbollah, who can't bring the two parties to the peace table. She's going to be seen as a feckless, utterly inept president. So I don't know if making her the commander-in-chief is this brilliant move. Because then she's going to own the border. She's going to own the economy. She's going to own this raging war in the Middle East. If I were them, I think they're playing with fire. But, look, they're desperate, and they may try anything at this point. 617-266-6868. So let me ask all of you, Kuhner country, are you anticipating an October surprise? And is that surprise, and is this why you went on The View? To basically set it up. I delegated everything to her, as he said. Foreign policy, domestic policy, everything. She was as good as I am. And so she was the co-president. Is Biden now setting it up to step down, completely step away from the presidency, and hand it over to Kamala Harris weeks before the election? And would that be a good thing for Kamala or a bad thing for Kamala? Or to be more precise, because I really don't care about her, I care about Trump, would it be good for Trump or bad for Trump? 617-266-6868. I think it would be very good for Trump because now he's up against the incumbent and he can say she owns everything. I mean, completely. It's now her administration, not just co-administration. It's all on her hands, all at her feet. But that's me. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. John in Peabody. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. You know what? I was just thinking about what you were saying. I changed my mind. I think you're 100% right about that. Because the more you see Kamala Harris and you listen to her talk, the more you don't like her. And I think because Trump's not going to give her that next debate, she's desperate. So she's getting on the air more and more. And the more she's in front of the public eyes, I just don't think she's, credible. And I don't think people like her. That's just my thought.
John, I want to play a cut and get your reaction. This is her. This is Kamala Harris on MSNBC. She was interviewed by Stephanie Ruhle. It was another disastrous interview. And this is Stephanie Ruhle, who could be maybe her biggest water carrier in the entire media, which is saying something. And this is the stuff that comes out of her mouth. She thinks that she's being profound. But everyone's like, what the hell is Kamala saying? Now, I want to play this. This is what she said. Okay, I'm going to play it unfiltered. Listen to this. Roll cut 34. Mike.
Let me close with this.
No, 34, Mike. Mike, 34.
And the plan would be to create 3 million new housing units for rent and for ownership by the end of my first term. Includes also what we must do to cut red tape. You're absolutely right. It takes far too long and there's too much bureaucracy associated with home building. And I say that as a devout public servant. I know that we have to reduce the red tape and speed up what we need to do around building. And that is going to require working from the federal level with state and local governments. And it's going to be different in different places, depending on the needs of that community, the needs of that local government, that municipality, but working in consultation and coordination and also around incentives that we can create. For example, some of the work is going to be through what we do in terms of giving benefits and assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars and looking holistically at the connection between that and housing and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments.
She doesn't know what she's talking about. I mean, honestly, John, can you tell me what she's trying to say? What does that mean, looking holistically at transportation and housing, at the government and housing, at red tape? She throws in words that she thinks make her sound smart, but everybody's like, what are you saying? She makes no sense. Now, most people don't watch Stephanie Ruhle on MSNBC. But once she becomes commander-in-chief, if they make her president, I don't know, John, am I wrong?
You're 100% correct. And I think the reason why she did, fairly decent for herself in the debate is that she probably got the questions before and she studied for like 2 weeks. She's not good on her toes. She doesn't know the facts, and it's weird. It's really, they're a weird party. And you know what? Walsh and her are just weirdos. That's just my thought.
John, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868. Oh, no, there's no question. She was given the questions ahead of time. I mean, we have a whistleblower at ABC who said, no, they gave her sample questions which were almost identical to the actual questions. And so she has to be helped. Even this interview with Stephanie Ruhle, it wasn't live. It's all pre-taped, edited. They're trying. She does very few interviews, and only with the most friendly, sycophantic media outlets. Okay, basically, she's doing it with Democratic media. And even then, can't do it live. It's got to be pre-taped. It's got to be heavily edited. Now, you make this dunderhead, okay, you make this airhead actual commander-in-chief. I think the country's going to say, are you serious? So, yes, it'll break glass ceilings. Yes, it may electrify part of her base. They'll go, oh, a woman president, yeah. And I think people are going to look at it and say, her in the White House? Actually seeing her with that stupid smile and that airhead look of hers and the stuff that comes out of her mouth? Because now you're president. I mean, now you've got to give interviews. You've got to talk. You have to. It's your job. I don't think so. I think this could backfire and backfire big. But that's me. I could be wrong. 617-266-6868. Virginia in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Virginia, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call. I think that is plausible that they might just do that next month. They're running scared. She was not elected by her Democrat people. She's not electable, but I'm scared. I don't count my chickens before they're hatched, and it's not even over to the fat lady sings. But she's an airhead, and the only way these Democrats is to make her president is to do it next month. Him hand over the reign to her, still an unelected president, to say we have the first Jamaican Indian woman. Because I don't call her black, because to me black is African American. Everything she comes out of her mouth is lies, and yet there's friends that I have that will vote for her because of one issue only, the abortion issue. Like, that's the only thing. So I say, okay, so you want the floodgates to open because that's what she's going to do. She's going to, the borders, those walls are going down. You're going to have, just like Scarface the movie. We have it now, but it's going to get worse. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull that out of the hat next month.
Virginia, if you don't mind me asking, and if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. Do you think, if you were advising Trump, or if you're sitting around with Trump, and he says to you, hey, Virginia, what do you think? Would this be to my advantage or disadvantage? Is it better for me now, or is it better for me if they actually would have Biden step down and make Kamala president? What do you think would work better for Trump?
better for him if Biden was to step down, her to take his place, and then open her mouth, because when she opens her mouth, this air comes out. There's no substance. She has no answer when you ask her how is she going to change this? What is she going to do about that? She's got no answer.
Interesting. Interesting. Virginia, thank you very much for that call. So basically, Virginia is, so far it's two. Both John and Virginia are saying, no, Jeff, I think this would work in Trump's favor. In other words, if this is their October surprise, it's going to blow up on them. You know, normally the October surprise is supposed to help you, not hurt you. So far, at least what I'm getting is, first initial calls, no, Jeff, they make her president. It's not going to help her. It's going to help Trump. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Mark in Reading. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Kuhner country, in a non-sexual way, of course. I'd like to talk, to answer your question, I think it's going to be a wash. I think it's too late in the election to make a difference. I think most Americans already dug their heels in on which way they're going to go. And then on Kamala's point of her holistic view of transportation and housing, I picture MBTA Act, Zoning Act on a federal level.
Oh, excellent.
They want to dictate zoning.
Excellent. Excellent. You're completely right. You're completely right, Mark. Mark, I don't want to get into the weeds of transportation policy, but you're right. You're absolutely right. I just want to go back to the political question. You think essentially it won't make a difference. So Biden steps down. She now becomes President Kamala Harris. Let me just play devil's advocate for a second, Mark. What do you say to the argument? Because people aren't making it, so let me make it. Hey, look, she would now be president, not vice president. She'd be the first female president in the history of the United States. You know, good or bad, whatever you think about her, this is historically unprecedented. She'd be now considered an historical figure. On top of that, first female minority president. And that this then would help her maybe on the margins. And that this could be all they need in a close election to have her win in November. What do you say to that argument, Mark? I'm just curious.
From my point of view, I don't think whether she's vice president or president, Joe Biden and Kamala, they don't do anything anyways, so to speak. We have a proxy war in Ukraine. Middle East is about to blow up, and nothing's happening. I think it'll fire up some of the Trump supporters, just from a policy standpoint. But I think everyone just has their heels dug in so far on which way they're going.
Interesting.
No matter what happens, at least the people I talk to.
Interesting. Interesting. So you say it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt. You're saying, Jeff, it would still leave everything status quo the way it is, correct?
Yes, I don't think any action will be taken, and I don't think she can hide behind her administration for the past 4 years, which she already can't, but people don't get that point, that she was part of the problem. And I think it'll just be a wash with, it may fire up some of the Kamala voters, but I think they're already dug in. Most people I talk to are already dug in.
Yeah, that's my sense too, Mark. I think most people now have made up their mind. Whatever, 95, 97%. I think now, look, Grace said this to me the other day, Mark. She said, I kind of want the election to be over. I go, well, what do you mean? She goes, I just want to, honestly, she goes, it's just, people have made up their mind. People are ready to vote. There's very few undecideds left. Mark, excellent call. Thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, I gotta say, Mark kind of touched on this. She's trying to hide behind Biden. And what I mean by that is, yeah, I was part of his administration. I was his VP. I got the experience, the credentials to be president. But she's kind of trying to distance herself or disown some of his policies because she knows how unpopular they are. So it's more like, I was his number two. No, I was behind him. He's the guy in the front. I'm the guy in the back. You make her president, she's no longer the person in the back. She's now the person in the front. So in a way, Trump can turn around and say, it was her administration for the last 4 years. Biden said she was co-president, and now she's president. So if you hate the last 4 years, it's very simple now. Vote against Kamala. So they may think, oh man, this will make the women come on board. Blacks will come back. Black men will come back to the Democratic coalition. Let's make her president. Be careful what you wish for. You just may get it. 720 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. We're probably going to talk about the potential for a massive war if it's not already a ground war by tomorrow. So I will get to Lebanon and the Middle East tomorrow, I promise. But all of you need to hear this at a bare minimum. You need to know this. Most economic experts, economists, I don't care, liberal, conservative, on the left, on the right, on the center, say if there is a major war in the Middle East, and we are now, when I say we're on the cusp, we may be 24 hours away. Maybe even 12 hours away. Israel is getting ready for a ground war into Lebanon. And Hezbollah is ready to retaliate. And Iran now says they will jump in. The cost of oil is going to go right through the roof. You're going to see an oil price shock, a global oil price shock, because all of this instability is obviously going to lead to, a barrel of oil. It's going to go up to 80, 90, $100. What that means is it's going to be costing us a lot more at the pump. Gas prices are going to go way up, and it could even trigger a recession. Not to scare people, I'm just telling you that's a very real possibility. So Kamala being installed as president, she's going to own all of this. All of this. So that's what I meant when I said this could permanently affect the election, this war between Israel and Hezbollah. Because I think the American people are going to look at this and say, we need an adult in the White House. We need someone who can bring peace and who can bring stability back. And that's going to be Donald Trump. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so very, very quick. This is from Alan on Messenger, and he makes a really, really important point. Jeff, if the October surprise is that Joe Biden resigns and makes Kamala POTUS president of the United States, then one of the following will occur. 1, China moves on Taiwan. 2, Russia drops a tactical nuke on Ukraine. 3, Iran openly, in caps, so it's no longer a proxy war, openly moves on Israel and may reveal that they have nukes, even if it's donated by North Korea, Russia, or China. In other words, what Alan is saying is, once you make her officially the president, then the wolves are out. The Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the mullahs, they're going to say, she's running the United States now? She's the commander-in-chief? We move. We go. So it could lead to a catastrophe within the first couple of weeks. I know they'll do it about a month out, but I'm just saying within the first week or 10 days of her as president of the United States. That's what I mean. It could really blow up in their face. In our face, in the world's face, but especially in the Democrats' face. 617-266-6868. Okay, one more, and I want to go to the phone lines. Jeff, this is from Mark on Messenger. Jeff, if Joey steps down and Kamala becomes the first woman president, that will be the second time she climbs up the ladder. That's a very good point. Without getting or earning a single solitary vote. First the nomination and then the presidency. What a freaking joke. How can anyone take her or that bullcrap seriously? And then all in caps, she earned none of it. You know, I didn't think of it that way. But Mark, you're a genius, man. That is an absolutely spectacular point. Think of the opening then she would give Trump. He would say, so let me get this straight. She gets the nomination without a vote? A single vote? Now they give her the presidency on a silver platter? Without a vote? Not having earned it at all? She's the ultimate DEI candidate. This woman can't do anything on her own. And I think the American people are going to look at this and say, I'm sorry, but this is disgusting. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Carrie in West Bridgewater. Thanks for holding, Carrie, and welcome. Carrie?
Kamala, good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I didn't hear the beginning.
Okay.
Please go ahead, Carrie. Start from the beginning, please.
Okay. Jeff, I suspect that her internal polling numbers are showing that she is in real trouble. And that's why she's going to the border. I don't think the Oprah interview helped her. Certainly the Stephanie Rule interview didn't help her. I was reading, comments, what she said.
Oh, Carrie, please, can you hang on? I'm up against a break. I'm going to come right back. I promise. Continue to take many more of your calls. The ultimate October surprise. Is it going to be that Biden drops out the presidency and installs Kamala Harris? Your call's next. 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868. We're going to go right back to Carrie in West Bridgewater. Just a super quick reset. Joe Biden does The View. And it was a pathetic performance. Honestly, those people on The View, those co-hosts, should be ashamed of themselves. As I said in my opening monologue, to say it was fawning and sycophantic is an understatement. And Joe Biden came out and said that Kamala Harris, that he delegated everything to her during his entire presidency, and he was adamant, both domestic and foreign policy. And as he put it, she could do the job just as good as I can. That's why I gave her control over everything. So the question now is, many are speculating that this is a setup, a prelude to an October surprise in which Biden will officially resign the presidency, step aside, and hand it over to Kamala, making her A, the first female president, B, the first female minority president. And my question to you, do you think this will help her against Trump, or will it blow up right in her and the Democratic Party's face? Let's go right back to Carrie in West Bridgewater. Carrie, we got cut off by the break. Please pick up where you left off.
Thank you. Jeff, this woman isn't qualified to run a lemonade stand. She really, truly isn't. And the world is in such a precarious place right now. We need someone who knows that the most important issues are things other than proper pronoun use and abortion. But remember, with Kamala Harris, just like with Joe Biden, the media is the enemy of the people. My fear is that if they do install Kamala as president, that the sycophantic media, her comrades in the media, who just a few months ago were saying that Joe Biden was as sharp, as brilliant, as energetic as a 20-year-old. He was running circles around everybody, as we all saw him melting down with cognitive decline. They are going to it won't be an inauguration, it'll be a coronation. From princess to queen of America, there she is, our DEI president. There are too many low information voters in this country, and they will say, you know what? Let's give her a chance. Let's let her have a shot. I'm going to vote for the Queen. I'm going to vote for Kamala, and let's see what she can do with a beautiful assist from the media. That's my fear. I don't think Trump would benefit from this.
Interesting. You're the first one, Carrie, that at least that's called in. There's many on the text line that agree with you. But you're the first one that's called in that says, you know what? This could actually really be a genuine October surprise, meaning it'll hurt Trump. It'll help the Democrats. No, Carrie, look, I have to say, you're making a very powerful case. The media, you're right, they would coronate her. It would be 24/7. It would be the kind of propaganda we've never seen ever in the history of our country. They would go on, the first female president, Hollywood would come out, celebrities would come out, Taylor Swift and all of them would come out, all the pop stars. And oh my God, this is the ultimate glass ceiling. She's a world historical figure. She's right up there now with George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Barack Obama. And this is really, you have to vote for her. So there would be so much pressure, and there would be so much goodwill and good feeling unleashed by this media barrage that it may give her that boost in the polls that she needs. And maybe that's why they're going to go for it. I want to, Kevin texted me. He's a big fan of the show, a big supporter of the show, and he texted me this. And I want to run it by you, Carrie. And frankly, I want to run it by everybody in the audience, but especially the female members of the audience. Okay, the women out there. Because it's a very interesting point. I didn't think of it this way. Jeff, if you were an American woman, wouldn't you be offended that when the very first woman finally becomes president, it was given to her so frivolously? I want to ask you this, Carrie. Everything you said, very plausible, very possible, no question. But she didn't earn it. You know, they'll say, oh, you're right, it's a coronation, and she's DEI, and we got to give her a chance. But, you know, the truth is the truth, and the truth is she didn't earn a single vote. She didn't earn it to be the nominee, and now the presidency? Wouldn't many American women say, my God, this is such an insult? First time an American woman becomes president, and she didn't win it? She never even got a single vote? It was given to her on a silver platter? So could that potentially boomerang against her? I'm just curious. What say you, Carrie?
I think if you're a woman who listens to this show, yes, you're going to be. I have always found Kamala Harris extremely offensive. Like a lot of female politicians, I find extremely offensive because of that. They run on their gender and pretty much nothing else. But if you're a low information voter, then that wouldn't even be a consideration for you. All that matters is that she's a woman, and sadly that she supports abortion up until, you know, even post-birth. That's the issue that for so many low information women, that's the galvanizing issue. It's the only issue. And to me, that's offensive and embarrassing, really. We fought so hard for the right to vote, and we fought so hard to be able to control our destinies, And this, for some reason, seems to be the only issue that too many women care about. It's very frustrating.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Carrie, honestly, phenomenal call. Phenomenal call. And I want to thank you for your courage and your honesty, because you're really saying what so many people are thinking. Carrie, thank you very much for that call. Outstanding call. Really, I'm talking best audience in the business. I know, Jeff, how many times are you going to say it? It's true. I don't know what else to tell you. 617-266-6868. Let me just quickly repose the question. I think Carrie answered it very well. Very well. But I just want to repose it if you don't mind. You know, especially to the women. I'm inviting everybody, but especially the women. Let's say it happens, just for the sake of argument. I don't know, man. Like, wouldn't a lot of women out there find it insulting and offensive and almost, anticlimactic? So, okay, we want a female president eventually, based on merit. To me, obviously, you want the best person for the job, but have the person be elected. Have the person earn the votes. To just give it like that from an old white man. I mean, if you just want to play the whole left-wing patriarchy narrative. So an old white man hands the presidency, bequeaths the presidency to a woman. She couldn't even win it and earn it on her own. Wouldn't a lot of women, wouldn't that just make them sick to their stomach? If you're an honest feminist in any way, if an honest believer in women's rights, wouldn't you say, geez, not like this? I mean, so this is how it's going to go down now in the history books? It was given to us. We didn't earn it. We didn't take it. We didn't actually genuinely achieve it and succeed at it. I'm just asking. 617-266-6868. Scott in Revere. Thanks for holding, Scott. And as always, welcome.
Jeff, I love you. It's just the way, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. What's on your mind, my friend?
Jeff, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm so sick and tired of them treating all these major positions in our government like it's a second-hand job. You know what I mean? You got the President of the United States talking, we're guessing if he's going to step down and give it to somebody. The presidency is not something to be given, first off. You're not giving the presidency in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know where this guy gets off all of a sudden just saying, I don't want to be president no more. You know what I mean? Bad enough the guy couldn't think for 3 years. And now Kamala knew all about that, by the way. So we're starting from a point where Kamala knew Biden was basically jelly for brains. She knew this the whole time. And she didn't do one thing about it. So that's the president we want to give we want to give her the presidency? Not to mention, the email you read about Russia going nuclear, China taking that. All three of those things would happen. Not one, all three of them. She's an empty head. Everybody knows it. Obama, Soros, they have to pay people to go to her rallies. They have to pay people to vote for her. What does that say? Trump is crushing her.
Scott, one of your best calls. Scott, you're on fire. Absolutely on fire. Look, the audience is on fire. I want to take more of your calls. 617-266-6868. Will there be an October surprise? 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. 617-266-6868. Okay. Almost right on cue. And I want to give a hat tip to Sandy, because Sandy was the one that really pointed this out to me while we were off air. So, almost right on cue. You can see something is percolating. Something is simmering. Kamala Harris is meeting Zelensky alone today in the White House. Alone. And so what, as Sandy rightly pointed out, she goes, well, look what they're doing. Number one, and it's true, I've never seen this before, where they're using a foreign leader, where a presidential ticket is using a foreign leader as a campaign surrogate, the way they're using Zelensky now. Not only did he go to Pennsylvania, as I talked about a few days ago, and trashed Trump and trashed J.D. Vance and basically endorsed Kamala Harris. Not only did he do that, on our dime, by the way, okay, as we're flying him around our country, on our soil, in the middle of our election, in the middle of a pivotal, right there in a pivotal swing state. And he's going to our ammunitions plants, and he's saying, Trump can't deliver peace. J.D. Vance is too dangerous and too radical. You have to essentially vote for Kamala in November. But now, he's not meeting with Biden. He's not even meeting with Kamala and Biden. He's meeting with Kamala alone. But before they met, right in front of the cameras, there they are, shaking hands, smiling. He's thanking her. She's, welcoming him. In other words, they're trying to give the image to the country and to the world that she's already president. Look how she's the one who's now meeting foreign leaders. They're coming already to kiss her ring. And that's all to create the perception that the presidency is already gradually, slowly being transferred from Biden to Comrade Kamala. So it's already, this October surprise, they're already kind of softening the ground. I mean, Biden now goes on The View and says, I delegated everything to her. Everything, just everything. Foreign policy, domestic policy. There's nothing I did that she couldn't do. But really, look, here's what he said. She was my co-president. And then, now, she's meeting with foreign leaders all by herself in the White House? Now, just as an aside, I don't want to get sidetracked. I'm telling you that SOB Zelensky, and he is a corrupt little snake, he better pray to God that Trump doesn't win in November. Because I'm telling you, I'm done with him. The country's done with him. MAGA is done with him. They're not going to get a freaking penny from us after this. After everything we've done for him. Hey, but that's your money. Our money. Our money has been sent to Ukraine. Your money, my money. And this guy has the gall. I mean, you want to talk about naked, direct foreign election interference? And by the way, colluding with Kamala and the Kamala campaign? I mean, we're not just talking now Trump-Russia collusion. This is literally Kamala-Ukraine collusion. And unlike the Trump-Russia collusion, that was a hoax. This is real. Hell, it's right in front of our face. But the point is, let's leave Zelensky, let that go. Let's just leave Zelensky aside for a second, okay? We'll take care of him later when Trump wins in November. But to me, what's obvious now is they're already transitioning. Look, who meets with foreign dignitaries? Not Biden, Kamala. Who now makes decisions about war and peace? He's begging for $8 billion more. By the way, what happened to the $55 billion we sent him? What happened to the 55? We just sent him the 55 bill. What the hell happened to the 55 bill? What happened to that money? He wants another $8 billion. On top of his so-called victory plan, which, as I mentioned yesterday, it's to rain our missiles, cruise missiles, all over Mother Russia. Target cities all across Russia, killing civilians, women, children, you name it. So basically his plan is World War III. And endless weapons, endless money. Here, I've given you his plan in a nutshell. But he doesn't go to Biden. He goes to Kamala. And the cameras are there to deliver the message. She's already president. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Hank in California. Thanks for holding, Hank, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, I think if this was to happen, I think it would blow up in their face for two reasons. One, I think that people are just sick of the shenanigans of her not being elected at any point to anything. But secondly, this would expose her for the liar that she is. Her whole campaign has been about on day one, quote, on day one, and this would essentially be her day one, and she's not going to follow through with anything that she's said she would.
Oh, you mean like on day one, she'll secure the border. On day one, she'll lower inflation. On day one, she'll grow the middle class, blah, 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 correct?
100%, yeah. She would have to do a tap dance and somehow until after the election's over where, Trump can expose her. Well, she said she would do this, so why isn't she doing it? Because before she can say, well, that was Biden, I'm just the VP. Well, you're no longer the VP anymore. So this is day one. Why are we not doing any of this?
See, that's a great point. Hank, that's a really, really great point. Hank, I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. Completely. Let me, again, just play devil's advocate. What do you say to the argument, though? Because I'm getting a lot of this on, and it's a valid argument. It's a very valid argument. Jeff, the media is going to go into overdrive. You are going to see levels of propaganda that you've never seen in the history of the United States. First woman president, first female minority president, like Carrie put it, Queen Kamala. I mean, this is, how can you go back now? You have a female president, you've broken all these glass ceilings, and we're going to go back to evil Orange Man? In other words, that there would be such a massive media, Hollywood, pop culture offensive that to the low information voter, they would be swept up in this love affair for Kamala Harris. I'm just curious, what do you say to that argument?
Her poll ratings are already so low, and everybody is so sick of hearing about Kamala. Now, if they were to do that, this would be Kamala ad nauseum, and I think people would just be so over the top sick of it. I mean, you're going to have your sycophantic idiots that are going to absolutely bow and this and that, but I don't think it's going to change the needle because those who already can't stand her, it's just going to be Kamala overload, and they're really not going to be able to stand her.
Interesting. Hank, thank you very much for that call. Look, I got to tell you, I mean, text line is burning up. They're saying, Jeff, callers are always great, but what the hell did they drink this morning? I mean, because it's A+++. I mean, it's one home run after another. 617-266-6868. Okay, very, very quick. You got problems. Because if I said it, I'm telling you, you're not going to believe it, so I'm going to play the cut. You got problems when Al Gore, I don't know why I like to call him Al Gore. I just find it funny. Anyway, Al Gore is making fun of Kamala. He's making fun of her. The answer to every question, I came from a middle class background. Listen now to Al Gore. So he's on Axios, which is a very, left-wing, pro-Kamala, pro-Democrat news site. And, he starts making fun of Kamala. This is Al Gore. Al Gore is making fun of her. Roll cut 36. Mike.
It's as if you recited some of those facts before. But
you've
they're
written
serious.
About them.
Yes,
Before.
I've written about them many times.
This audience may not all have heard those facts before.
That's true. Also,
I want to point out that Kamala Harris grew up in a middle-class family also.
Thank you.
They're making fun of her. I mean, these are left-wingers, man. These are all progressive Democrats. This is Axios. It's like the New York Times, okay? I mean, they don't have the reach or maybe the prestige of the New York Times. I'm not saying that. but they're like, Politico and second tier liberal websites that Democrats follow religiously. Okay. So this is Democrat media. That's what Axios is. And the editors are making fun of her. The reporters are making fun of her. The audience is making fun of her. Al Gore is making fun of her. They're making fun of her because her answers are so canned and stupid. I mean, every answer. Again, Stephanie Rule on MS Left BC asked her again, better off now or you were better off 4 years ago? And what do you think her answer was? I grew up in a middle class family. Duh. She's that bad. So you want to make her commander-in-chief a couple weeks before the election? I agree with Kerry and Bridgewater. The internal polling has to be horrible. For you to even contemplate this, the internal polls have to be, we're getting wiped out. Like this is a Hail Mary. This is desperation time. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Andy.
Hey, I agree that there's going to be an October surprise, and I think this is plausible for that October surprise. Jeff, there is a canary in the coal mine that I've been seeing all week here, and I even commented on this a couple of days ago on 704. And that canary in the coal mine is 80% of the American public did not want this war in Ukraine. 80% of the American public did not want American money going to Ukraine. Honestly, Jeff, I think the decision of the FBI, and it was criminal, to release the Ryan Ruth manifesto to the public, I think that alone handed Donald Trump the presidency, because that 80% of the American public right now is looking at that, and they're like, so you guys are going to pick up a loaded gun and supplant your judgment for that of the voters? Are you out of your mind? I think it is being set up for that 80% of the American public this November electorally to deliver a big blank U to the modern Democratic Party all up and down the ballot over this. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't heard even one moonbat unequivocally denounce that premise. Now, if you're going to have Kamala Harris getting tight with Zelensky, that's even going to further cement in the view of that 80% of the American public that, you know, we're just going to get more of the same of the one thing we've made clear we don't want. And I'd be curious to find out with you, how much sentiment are you finding for this in the rest of Kuhner country?
Oh, Andy, look, I got to tell you, as you were talking, I'm just nodding my head up and down. And it's not just Kuhner country. I can't tell you how many, this is something I've never seen in all the time I've been on talk radio. And now I've been around for a while now, right? I've never seen this. I've never seen this. Liberals, I guess now they're former liberals. I don't know what they are, but liberals, independents, non-Trump supporters. They say, Jeff, I voted for Hillary in 2016. I voted for Biden in 2020. Email after email. In fact, what I want to do is I'm just going to read some of them. I'm just getting a ton of them. And they're like, Jeff, they're taking us to World War III. It's so obvious what's going to happen. And either we're going to have a big war in the Middle East or maybe even a bigger war with Russia. And these people are insane. And they're like, Jeff, we have to stop these wars. That's why I'm voting for Trump. And, and look, I just want to be fair to these people because they listen to the show and I want to pay them the respect that they're owed. They, to be fair to them, I disagree with them, but to be fair to them, they say, Jeff, I don't like Trump. They say that in the email. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like the way he tweets. I find him at times vulgar and coarse and unpresidential. These are their words. They'll say, Jeff, I think he's a bully, the way he treats people. I don't like the way he jokes around. Like his personality, really, you can see they can't get beyond his personality. They just find his personality toxic. Okay. To be fair to them. To me, I find him funny. I find him hilarious. I find him charming. I think he's tough. Yeah, he may be an SOB, but he's our SOB. That's the way I've always looked at him. But I want to be fair to these people. But what's changed, Andy, is they're all going to vote for Trump. In fact, my doctor yesterday, who, same thing, can't stand Trump, his personality, can't stand it, and did not vote for him in 2016 and 2020, said he's going to vote for him now over Kamala. And I was like, whoa, I'm shocked. And he's like, same thing. He goes, we're heading towards World War III. It's so obvious. Like, what is wrong with these people? So he said, I may not, I can't stand the guy, but I can't argue with his results. We had peace. We had prosperity. He did it before. He'll do it again. I'm voting for him. He said, grudgingly, I'm going to hold my nose, but I'm going to vote for him. And by the way, he said, many of my doctor and medical friends, same thing. They won't admit it. But they go, Kamala scares us. Russia now, this war scares us. What's happening in the Middle East now really scares us. Look, Iran either has the bomb or it's very close to the bomb. Israel is a nuclear power. You have these two countries now potentially colliding over Hezbollah in Lebanon, or what's happening in Russia. This thing could escalate like this. So, Andy, I can't tell you how many. The country does not want more war in Ukraine. They've lost the country on the issue of war and peace. And I'm, you and I see alike. I know many people disagree with me. I say you don't understand the depth and the breadth of the support for Trump out there in the heartland. We're going to swamp the polls. That's why they're panicking. They can't manufacture enough votes. Not in the face of this avalanche. And look, Andy, let me just end with this. I'm telling you, we're going to rue the day. This war with Ukraine is one of the biggest mistakes in the history of the United States. And I'm not going to get into the geopolitical implications. Okay, driving Russia into the arms of China and everything else that's come about. Okay, I'm not going to even get into that. Just the $250 billion alone that we have sent. $250 billion. My God. Do you know what we could have done for our country for $250 billion? Really, I'm serious. We could have rebuilt our military. We could have completely secured the border. We could have deported all of these criminal illegal aliens. I'm talking about paved roads, infrastructure, airports, seaports. I mean, we could have changed the country. No homelessness, taking care of our veterans. $250 billion. We could have rebuilt our country and just right down a rat hole. Right down the toilet. It's a massive, massive mistake. Massive blunder. And Andy, you're right. The country now wants a change and they want peace. And Trump is the peace candidate. Andy, thank you for that call. That's one of the big problems, Kamala. There are many. And look, as a good friend of mine just texted, they go, you see, they can't even read the room. The Ukrainian flags, have you noticed? They're disappearing. There's no more war fervor out there for Ukraine. Zelensky's lost his popularity in the United States. All of these corruption scandals that have been reported coming out, he's basically now fired half his cabinet because they're stealing left, right, and center in such a brazen way that he's got to start firing people. Zelensky himself was forced to admit, we've stolen money. Billions of dollars have been stolen. There's no doubt about it. So when the guy admits that his own government is crooked and corrupt and full of thieves, I'm thinking, so how much did you really steal? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. She's meeting him. The country sees this and says, "Niet, no more." More with your calls next. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, let me ask all of you. Do you fear or do you anticipate, I guess is the more accurate word, an October surprise in which, Dementia Joe resigns the presidency, a la Richard Nixon, and Kamala Harris becomes Gerald Ford 2.0, where she is installed as the president maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks before the November 5th election? And do you think it will help her or hurt her? Or, to me, what I care about more, do you think it'll help or hurt Trump? 617-266-6868. John in the great state of Arizona. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Thank you for taking my call, Jeff. You hit right on the exact points that I was going to bring up, because if you remember in 1944, when Roosevelt died, Truman took over, and he was extremely unpopular, and he was an unknown. He was just a kind of a figurehead. He really wasn't thought of as presidential material, but he did win. Then you go to 63. You had the assassination of Kennedy, and Johnson, who was extremely unpopular, took over. And he did win one election, and then, of course, he didn't run again. And he had tremendous unpopularity. But then you go, like you said, to Nixon and Ford, and he, of course, lost. And then you come to where we are today, and you could look at it as if Joe is finally fried and can't handle it anymore, and his handlers and his wife are on him, about resigning, give it to her, and score points for his legacy, as well as the Democratic Party as a last gasp. And then you look at that last gasp and you say, can she win in November? Because I don't look at it. This has been going on, this discussion about whether he would resign. And, of course, she's vice president. She would take over anyway. So I'm not, it doesn't upset me. It just says, the big question, does it turn the tables? And I say no. I say Trump will continue to go forward, and this will be people looking at, you're going to have the Democrats and the Nazis, whatever you want to call them. They're going to continue to follow her. And she may drain a few over, that want to, maybe a few independents or whatever. But overall, I think Trump, it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to win the popular vote in the United States. And he will be our 47th president.
I agree. John, I think he's going to win the popular. Again, look, I don't want to be overconfident. I want to tell everybody this. We have 40 days. It's got to be all out, not, pedal to the metal. We can't let up. And I'm very worried about voter fraud, cheating, election corruption. So please don't misunderstand me. But I'm speaking from the heart, like I'm in the confessional. I agree with you. I think Trump's going to win the popular vote, and I think he's going to rout her in the battleground states. And I think that's why now they're even floating this idea out there. This is panic. They're in full-blown panic because I think they're looking at their polls and they're saying what you and I are saying. They're just not going to say it in public. She's in trouble, and they know she's in trouble. And I agree with you, John. Making her president, it's not going to help her. If anything, I think it's going to hurt her. And my bigger fear, to be brutally honest, because the world, I'm not saying this to be insulting. Much of the world is run by dictators or authoritarian strongmen. So what they see is they just see who's the top person. They don't who's really pulling the strings and it's Obama behind the scenes and, all of this. Yeah, we're sophisticated. We get that. This audience gets that. But in most places around the world, even at the leadership position, all right, who's the top guy? Who's the top person? If they see Kamala as president, not VP, but now as president, say they make the transition and they coronate her, Biden steps down, makes her the president. I agree with Alan, the guy who messaged me, the listener. I think China looks at this as, what are we waiting for? I think Putin says, Ukraine is ours. And if I'm Iran and Hezbollah, I'm like, now is the time to hammer Israel. So, and by the way, this is going to have massive economic implications for us. A war anywhere, but especially a war in the Middle East. The cost of oil is going to explode. It's going to spark a recession, boom, on the spot. So if they put her in thinking, the feminists are going to love this and the young voters and we're going to win over more women voters and no, you're not. Believe me, it's going to blow up big. 8:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I hope you're feeling better with your health.
I am. I was actually diagnosed with bronchitis, but the Kuhner man is on the mend, so I'm taking some medication and I'm getting better. Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay, here's one I want to ask you, Jeff. I agree with you 100%, but I think you know who's telling them what to do if it does happen? It's Obama. He's telling them what to do.
Oh, I think there's no question, Jimmy. I think, he can go on The View and say, I delegated everything to Kamala, domestic policy, foreign policy. That's just, blah, blah, blah. That's just spin. He's just lying. It was Obama. This was been Obama's third term. It's been widely reported. Biden's own White House admitted that Obama and Biden speak 2 hours every day. It's unheard of. Presidents will call ex-presidents. What do you recommend? How do I deal with Putin? Right now, can you give me any tips? How do I deal with Hezbollah or Netanyahu or the Iranians? Or yes, you will call an ex-president for advice. And it could be a 20-minute, 30-minute phone call. But that's once in a blue moon. This is unheard of. 2 hours a day? Every day? He's on the phone with Obama? Because Obama's calling the shots. And then there's all the times Obama visited him in Delaware or he visited Obama. How many times Obama's actually even been physically in the White House. And then how many of his aides were running Biden's administration. Right now, Kamala's entire re-election team at the top, these are all Obama people. David Plouffe, who orchestrated Obama's elections. This is Obama's fingerprints all over. So there's no question, Jimmy. This has been Obama's third term. And Kamala is his fourth and really final term. It's the transformation of America. And if you look at everything Kamala now is saying, nuke the filibuster, national abortion on demand, mandatory gun confiscation, amnesty for illegals, full amnesty for every single illegal, plus free health care, plus free education, plus free college. Pack the Supreme Court. Make D.C. and Puerto Rico states, give them statehood, which guarantees 4 Democratic senators in perpetuity. The Green New Deal. Endless war against Russia. And give Iran everything. Fully appease Iran. This is Obama's 4th term. We're staring at the United States of Venezuela. And he vowed in his memoir that he would make America a third world country one day. That he would knock us down a peg. That we would now pay for the sins of European colonialism. Dreams of my father. And Jimmy, here we are.
Something about Russia.
I'm sorry, Jimmy, could you repeat that? I didn't hear.
I wanted to say something about Israel and Russia.
Yes, please. The floor is yours. Go. Yes, Jimmy, please, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Right, Putin had 2 visitors in 2 weeks. One of them was from Iran. What did Putin give them with his from his country? And he promised for missiles, all the technology on building the nuclear warheads. Then he had another visitor, the leader of Turkey. The leader of Turkey wants to get out of NATO because he fears he wants no part of this war if it explodes with Russia. So what did he also say? That the NATO is upset that he wanted to join a coalition of Arab countries to go after Israel. Am I correct, Jeff?
Yes. No, you're right, Jimmy. Turkey now wants to lead an Arab coalition, a Mideast coalition against Israel, in alliance with Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. That's why, and the media is not reporting this. And this is huge news in the Middle East. And by the way, in Europe, but not here. That's why Trump keeps warning people. He goes, you don't understand. We're on the verge of 2 world wars. One with Russia and NATO, and the other one in the Middle East. And we're sleepwalking into both of them. Jimmy?
Yes, one more point I want to make.
Yes,
Jeff.
please, go ahead.
This is going to shock you. These are quotes from the Bible. If these people believe in the Bible, go to Ezekiel 38:39. It talks about the countries that are going to be involved against Israel. And here's another one that's going to shock you. If we put her in charge of this country, go to Revelation 17.
Jimmy, thank you very much for that call. I really, really appreciate it. Look, Trump is our last chance. This is what I've been telling Grace in private. I'm going to say it publicly. You know where I stand. But this is the conversation we had just a couple nights ago. I said, really? I said, this is it. It's our last chance. So this is no longer about you and about me. This is about the country we're going to leave behind to our children. And if she wins in November, there's going to be nothing. I'm telling you, there's going to be nothing left to leave. 617-266-6868. Bill in Hawaii. Aloha, Bill. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Aloha.
Aloha, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just wanted to call in to say I don't believe there's going to be an election. I think what's going to happen is that they're going to put the October surprise in and make Harris president. And once they got Harris president, because they don't want Trump, because Trump wants peace, and they need to depopulate the world. So to do that, they need wars. And to have wars, they need Harris. And once they get Harris as president, then they can cause the wars and then have the election suspended.
Well, Bill, look, if I was to say, if you were to ask me, what do you think the October surprise is going to be, Jeff? I would not have initially said make Kamala president and, Biden step aside and make Kamala president. I would have told you, I think they're going to start a war with Iran. That was my sense. That's what I was going to say. And they got 40,000 U.S. troops already in the region, in the Middle East. They just a couple days ago announced a fresh deployment. They won't tell us how many, but thousands more of our troops, our young men and women, are going to be now sent to the Middle East because they're anticipating a huge ground war between Israel and Hezbollah. We have the USS Abraham Lincoln airstrike carrier there. Aircraft carrier, and now you got another one. The USS Harry Truman is now flying towards the Middle East. So almost half of our Navy is now positioned across the Middle East. What that tells me is the drumbeat of war is beating louder and louder and louder. And Iran has terrorist cells in the United States. Hezbollah is in our country. It's a known fact. And I don't know, Bill, if you saw the big story yesterday, but on the Ayatollah's website, this is in Iran, Khamenei, the supreme leader, he has an animated game on his website of Trump golfing and someone assassinating Trump. And the Ayatollah is taunting Trump, saying revenge is coming for the strike on Soleimani that he ordered and authorized when he was president. And so Trump has now come out and said that he is convinced that if not both, at least one of the assassination attempts on him, if not both of them, have at least some role with Iran. That Iran had some kind of a role or hand in trying to get him killed. So what I'm saying is, if there's a larger war in the Middle East between us and Iran, you're going to see bombs explode here. They're going to take the war here. They're not just going to leave it in the Middle East. And I think that's what would really give them the opening to declare martial law. And you're right. Kamala is the person to do it. Not Biden, it's Kamala. She's much younger, she's not senile, and really, she's a complete idiot and puppet. A complete maroon, as Bugs Bunny would put it. So, if anyone could push for the elections to be suspended under the guise of a national or international emergency and martial law, it's Kamala and the Democrats. So, be prepared for an October surprise. 8:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you. Do you fear an October surprise? And is it what many of you are suspecting, which is that Kamala Harris will be installed as President of the United States weeks before, maybe a month, whatever, 3 weeks, a month before the November 5th election, in which Joe Biden resigns, says he can no longer do the job, and Kamala is made the first female president of the United States. And would that help her or hurt her? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868. Bob in the great state of New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, I wanted to talk about this collusion between the Iranians and the Harris campaign.
Yes.
You know, it's one of the biggest stories, and nobody's talking about it. As a matter of fact, I saw Jim Jordan on Greta Van Susteren the other day, right? And he said that if this was the other way around, if Trump was colluding with a foreign country, it would blow up. Jim Jordan's a freaking congressman. Why don't they do anything about it? I think he's just, I always liked Jim Jordan. You know, he's a fighter and this and that, but he's just an empty suit. It's all talk. All talk.
Well, you're right. That's the problem with Republicans. Again, outside of Trump and a handful of MAGA Republicans, like Matt Gaetz or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert, or there's others. There's about 10 of them, 10, 12, 15 of them. But the rest, you're right. He's all talk. They're all bark and no bite. So is Jim Jordan good at writing a letter? Yes. Is he good in front of a camera at a hearing and pounding his fist with his sleeves rolled up and ripping into a witness? Yes. But does he actually follow up and do anything? No. And again, Joe, this is where I have to give the devil their due. Pelosi impeached Trump twice on nothing. On nothing. When the Democrats, they fight. It's not just bark, they bite. In fact, they bite over nothing. So, and that's why they keep winning. Because they know that Republicans are basically all talk and no action. And look, I just want to go back to what you were saying, Joe. We now have, this is definitive, we have open, naked collusion between our mortal enemy, the Ayatollahs of Iran. These are the people that are calling for death to America. The greatest sponsor of terrorism in the world. A regime responsible for the deaths of thousands of Americans, including many of our soldiers in Iraq. And they're openly calling for Kamala Harris to win? They're openly interfering in our election to do everything they can to help Kamala win? And Kamala is colluding with the Ayatollahs and the mullahs? They went berserk over Trump colluding with Russia, and no one ever colluded. What about this? So, look, if this was Trump, if he was conducting secret negotiations with the Ayatollahs, if they were saying we endorse him and we want him to win over Kamala, and they were doing everything they can to help register voters and go on social media and try to convince as many people as possible to vote for Trump, there would be congressional investigations, Joe. There would be wall-to-wall media coverage. Pelosi would be calling for Trump's head. She'd be saying he's already impeached. He hasn't won, he's already impeached. She'd be guaranteeing an impeachment the second he's inaugurated. This, Joe, nothing. Jordan goes on Newsmax, flops his mouth. Mike Johnson makes a little bit of noise on Fox News, and let's all go home. That's why the Democrats win. That's why the Republicans lose. Final word to you, Joe.
Well, just another thing about, Biden resigning and putting Kamala in there. Let me tell you, they'll have to take him out kicking and screaming, especially Jill. She's not going to want to give up power. They'll have to do the same thing they did to get him to resign. They're going to have to wave the 25th Amendment in front of his face or say, hey, look it, we know you're corrupt and we can expose all of it. It's either step down or you're done.
Well, Joe, I got to tell you, they really humiliated him before. You're right, by forcing Kamala on the ticket and overthrowing him from the nomination. To do it again, but this time to vacate the presidency, you're right. It would be a real humiliation. You want to talk about a humiliating blow. It would be a public humiliation. And you're right. I don't know if Jill would stand for it. But look, we don't know the deals they've made behind the scenes, Joe. You're right. He's got, kompromat, as the Russians say, compromising information on his opponents. But they also have compromising information on him. And if that's the price to give Hunter a pardon and to make sure that the Bidens get away, no problem, who knows what deals are being hatched behind the scenes. But look, Jill Biden, if anyone's going to veto it, it's going to be Jill Biden. I agree with you. Joe, thank you very much for that call. Good call. Betsy in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Betsy, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I just want to approach this abortion thing that's going on. They want the right to choose. They want my life, my body, my life. That's not the underlying thing. There's huge money in aborted fetuses. They don't just throw them in the trash. They use every scrap of that fetus. And the longer that baby goes to full, if they're up to, in New Hampshire, they can terminate up to 24 weeks, sorry. And at that point, their organs are developed enough so that they can pull those organs and use them in transplants. So every piece of that baby is, if it gets up to 24 weeks, can be used and sold. The baby's not buried and given anything like that, a name and buried and everything. It's an abortion, and they take the baby and they use every piece, the skin,
it's barbaric.
the eyes.
Betsy, it's barbaric. It really is. Look, I remember in 2016, if you remember, 8 years ago, that undercover video that emerged of a senior official, a woman at Planned Parenthood, who over, lunch, just, nibbling on food and sipping wine, was just going on about how, aborted baby parts and how much you can get for a liver and how much you can get for a kidney and how much you can get for a brain or a heart. I mean, it's truly barbaric. It really is barbaric when you actually expose what the abortion industry is all about. There's no question in my mind. And that's why, look, I go back to what the left is lying about. Jennifer Lawrence, a famous Hollywood actress, just came out yesterday on social media. She's got a big following, whatever we may think of her. And she told, especially young women, vote for Kamala Harris. Why? And then she lied. She said because Trump wants to impose a national ban on abortion. That's a complete lie. It's what, and by the way, Kamala Harris has repeated that lie again and again and again. And so has the media. Trump is against any national ban because he believes the issue must rest and should rest with the states. So all they're doing now is they're trying to scaremonger. They want to just create so much panic porn and hysteria that basically it's the Handmaid's Tale. That if Trump wins, it's going to be like the Handmaid's Tale. Women are going to be forced to have, forced to carry pregnancies. My God, soon they're going to be implanting women with babies, and they're just going to be forced to carry them to term. And he's going to have this national ban. There's going to be back alley abortions. It's a complete lie. And that the media is participating in this massive lie, it's why nobody trusts them. Because all they do now is lie, lie, lie. Betsy, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Okay, very quickly, because there's a couple of other very important issues we need to get to. I'm going to continue to take calls, I promise. 617-266-6868 is the number. This is why Kamala Harris would be a disaster if they tried to install her as president, say, 3 or 4 weeks before the election. Okay, what kind of an October surprise. I want you to listen to her now. This is with Stephanie Ruhle on MSNBC. It was another one. Stephanie Ruhle, huge Kamala supporter. You can't be more in the tank for anybody than Stephanie Ruhle is for Kamala. And even still, she blew the interview. Listen now to Kamala Harris. I've never heard someone so ill-informed on economic issues as this crazy Marxist. Roll cut 31, Mike.
My vision for the economy, I call it an opportunity economy, is about making sure that all Americans, wherever they start, wherever they are, have the ability to actually achieve those dreams and those ambitions, which include, for middle-class families, just being able to know that their hard work allows them to get ahead, right? I think we can't and we shouldn't aspire to have an economy that just allows people to get by. People want to do more than just get by. They want to get ahead. And I come from the middle class. Look, my mother raised my sister and me. She worked hard. She saved up. By the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. And, home ownership for too many people in our country now is elusive. Gone is the day of everyone thinking they could actually live the American dream. So part of my vision for the economy is let's deal with some of the everyday challenges that people face and address them with common sense solutions, such as affordable housing.
Blah, 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 blah. She says nothing. And just as a quick aside, pictures are now out of the house that she and her mother and her sister lived in from when Kamala was 12 years old until she was 18. In Montreal, Canada, in Westmount, which, as I told you, is one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest area code in the entire country. It was a mansion. The pictures, I've been waiting for this. I said, because I know Westmount, it was right near McGill University. I used to drive through it all the time to get to work. Gorgeous homes. It's a really swanky, I'm thinking I don't know, Wellesley, Beverly Hills, the Hamptons, it is upper class, very privileged. Well, the pictures have now come out. I go, what middle working class background? It's a mansion. This woman lived in a mansion. It is gorgeous. She's a liar. She's trying to sell herself as this working class, middle class gal when she was the child of upper class privilege, born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Okay, but let that go. She says the American dream now is out of reach for most Americans. Well, whose fault is that? Again, she's acting like she hasn't been in power for the last 3.5 years. You had 3.5 years to make the American dream achievable for so many middle working class people. And now, listen to what she's saying. I can play the cut again. She says, it's falling more and more behind. More Americans are finding it unreachable. Well, yeah. And again, you've been in power for 3.5 years. So if the middle class is falling behind and the American dream is becoming unreachable for more and more Americans, whose fault is it? You had 3.5 years. By her own admission, she's saying Biden-Harris's policies failed. They didn't work. That's how stupid this woman is. Now, more from the interview. I'm going to read it. I can't stand her voice, so I'm just going to read it, okay? So, she gets stumped. So, this is supposed to be, remember, it's her first solo sit-down interview. Okay, because I wouldn't consider Oprah Winfrey an interview. That was like a rally. That wasn't an interview. So, she's sitting down. Again, this is Stephanie Rule. You can't make it easier. You can't make you can't make the softball any softer. Stephanie Rule. Simple question. Because Kamala's saying we got to raise taxes. Business taxes, corporate taxes, income taxes, unrealized capital gains tax increases across the board. She wants $5 trillion. Massive tax increase. So, Stephanie Rule asks a very obvious basic question. Again, lob a softball. Come on, Kamala, you can hit this. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if the Republican Party takes control of the Senate, well, where do you get the money to do that? In other words, you've got all of these big, massive spending proposals. $10 trillion. Trillion with a T. If you can't get these $5 trillion tax increases that you want, what do you do then? Now, this is an easy question. It's an obvious question. This is Harris's response. Quote, well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes. And we're going to have to We're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. Blah, blah, blah. She can't answer the question. No. You're vowing 10 trillion in spending. It's going to blow the deficit to kingdom come. You're promising 5 trillion in tax increases. But what if the Republicans control the Senate? Very possible. What if they retain control of the House? Very possible. What if you can't get your tax increases? Then what? Well, we're just going to have to do it. No, you can't do it. No, we're just going to have to do it. I don't know what else to tell you. Really, I don't know what else to tell you. This is who they're throwing out there. And to show you how pathetic Stephanie Rule is and the media. Again, it's always a new low with them. All Kamala did for the whole interview, even Democrats, even liberals, you got to see the reaction online. They're like, hey, I'm a liberal. This was a disaster. Hey, I'm a Democrat. She dodged every question. She never answered a single. Her answer is always, I'm middle class. I come from the middle class. I understand the middle class. We have to be positive. We have to have aspirations, opportunity society, opportunity economy, cheap platitudes, and vague buzzwords. That's all. That's all it is. Okay, it's dreck. It's just public relations spin. Empty, cheap slogans. That's all this woman offers. So everybody's saying she dodged and dodged and dodged and dodged. Listen to Stephanie Rule. This woman is supposed to be a journalist. Roll cut 33. Mike.
I thought her answer was interesting, which is basically like, well, it kind of depends, right? But we're not going to throw up a 20% tariff around the whole country, which is not a serious idea.
But I think that's the important part, sort of the nuance, because I'm going to be honest. President Biden has tariffs in place. He's held a lot of Donald Trump's tariffs in place. And the White House doesn't like to talk about it. They don't like it when you ask them about it because everybody has gotten in this zone of like, Trump's the tariff guy. We're not the tariff people. We're here on the other side. And what she did right there is kind of explain that it's complicated, right? We're a country of 330 million people. Our economy is complicated, right? In the same way, is the economy good or bad? It totally depends. So tariffs, if used in the right places, can work. And one could watch that and say, well, she didn't give a clear, direct answer. That's okay, because we are not talking about clear or direct issues.
See, it's okay. She's dodging. You see, it's okay. She's not giving clear or direct answers. You know why? It's just complicated. Everything's so complicated now. So we're not talking about clear or direct issues. It's so complex. It's so complicated. It's just, we have to have a holistic approach. As Kamala said, it's got to be a total holistic approach between transportation and trade and, and housing with the federal government, along with our state partners in the private sector. And I'm from a middle-class family, working-class Oakland, even though I never lived in Oakland, but that's okay, because I grew up in Palo Alto, which is also outside of Westmount. This woman grew up in Palo Alto, which is the birthplace of Silicon Valley. She was in Berkeley, man. Her father was a professor at Stanford. Before that, at Yale. The most elite private universities. Her mother taught at Berkeley. And then in Montreal at the Jewish General at McGill. Combined income, $1 million. She talks about having a neighbor that helped raise her because her mother was a working mom. Yeah, $600,000 a year. Holy, how did you get by on 600? And that was then. And she says, well, a neighbor raised me. A neighbor. You know what the neighbor was? She ran a ritzy daycare center. How many working women can pay for their two daughters, to go to an upper scale daycare center? She went to private school before they went to Westmount up in Canada for 6 years. Everything about this woman is an absolute lie. A lie. And she can't even answer the most basic economic or political questions? And they want to put her in the White House before the election? Good luck. Good luck. 9:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. 617-266-6868. Ronnie in Boston. Thanks for holding, Ronnie, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Kuhner Country. Always such a pleasure to talk.
Ronnie, it's great to hear from you.
Hey, I think the October surprise, your callers are on fire. I think it's very likely for several reasons. Yes, the internal polls are cratering. Yes, even when you give her the most layup debate or the most layup interview or the most layup rally, she makes no sense and actually scares Democrat voters. But the biggest reason, Jeff, is that the entire entertainment industrial complex has been completely neutered by the Diddy scandal. And all of the celebrities that Barack Obama could count on to campaign for him in record numbers, that Joe Biden could campaign on, they're all stepping down as CEOs and going into hiding. They're all scrubbing their Twitter and online profiles and going into hiding. The last thing they want to do right now is be in the public spotlight at all, let alone be out there promoting Kamala. And look what's even happened to the few that will. You can argue that Taylor Swift has hurt herself far more than she's helped Kamala. Half of her base is now alienated, and people are sick of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. The NFL fans are so over those two. And you know, a lot of people consider Oprah to be Ghislaine Maxwell 2.0, and they were horrified by that rally. They were horrified by that attempt to make Kamala human. And even when, you know, devout Democrats asked her simple, straightforward questions, it was complete. Like, it wasn't just bad, it was horrific. And so the entire entertainment industrial complex propaganda arm of the Democrat Party that they rely so heavily on is now completely embroiled in scandal. And all of these Diddy surrogates, Jay-Z, Beyonce, I mean, you name it, hundreds, if not thousands, that would be out there doing a full court press for Kamala 24/7. They are all in hiding, Jeff. And all of that is off the table. And while that's happening, they're losing their cream of the crop Democrats. They've lost Elon. They've lost Tulsi. They've lost RFK. They've lost Alan Dershowitz. They've lost a senator in California. They keep losing the best of their party to pursue this propaganda campaign for this empty vessel Kamala that just does not know. She's so out of her league. And it's so obvious, and a lot of people are secretly saying out loud, like, is she an alcoholic? Does she have some kind of substance abuse problem? She, even even when she's sitting down with the most friendly media, she does not look comfortable. She does not look confident, and she does not sound right, you know? So, I mean, all of the weapons that Obama had, you know, with the celebrity cult, like, all of that's off the table for Kamala. And so they have to go with this October surprise. They have to go with full propaganda because their entire campaign arm has been completely gutted by scandal.
Well, Ronnie, this is the $64,000 question. I got to say, you are really nailing it, my friend. I think you're right. I think the Sean P. Diddy scandal, and it's disgusting. The details of it are honestly, they're horrifying. And you're right. It's implicating Hollywood, celebrities everywhere, political people. I think the Obamas now are going to get embroiled in this. Top Democrats now are going to get sucked into this. This is a potential nightmare for Democrats. I agree with you. But the $64,000 question, if they make her the first female minority president, with all the media celebrating, lionizing her, and all of the propaganda that will come with it, nonstop 24/7, will it be enough to sway women voters, minority voters, younger voters to come around and put her over the top in November? In other words, Ronnie, they're going to paint her as she's broken all of these glass ceilings. She's truly historic. How can you not vote for her? What say you to that?
I say that such an attempt is a massive campaign rally for Trump, because what people are really going to do, look, like previous callers have said, you know, the sycophant feminists are going to vote for Kamala no matter what. But to the independents and people in the middle that you really need to win, all they're going to do is stand back and go, so she didn't have to do a thing to become the nominee, and now she doesn't have to do a single thing to become president, while Trump is out there holding 5 rallies to her every one, while Trump is holding 20 interviews to her every one, while Trump's been shot at twice and lived to tell about it, while one guy is doing all this work and answering direct questions with direct answers. And here we just have this whatever that is just handed everything without having to campaign, without any of the Democrat base getting a say. So she's the nominee without a single vote, and now she's the president without a single vote? Hell no. And you know what, Jeff? It would be one thing if at least Kamala could back it up with some political savvy like Barack Obama has. You know, that guy knows how to give a speech. That guy knows how to mobilize people. But what they've seen from Kamala is so shallow. She's so over her head, so out of her depth, so out of her league, so completely evasive. You know, like someone famously said, Kamala's like a jukebox that only plays 3 songs. I was born in a middle-class family, Opportunity Zone, and Higher Taxes on the Rich. Those are the only 3 songs that her jukebox plays.
Ronnie, man, drop the mic. Holy mackerel. Ronnie, I think this may be the call of the week, my friend. You nailed her, and good. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, many of you are texting the Kuhner man, messaging me, emailing me. Jeff saying, I agree. Ronnie, caller of the week. Today, the callers, fire. 617-266-6868. Okay. It's an unpleasant topic. I don't want to linger on it. I want to continue to take the calls. But it is, I'd be remiss if I did not at least mention it. You know, there's been obviously 2 assassination attempts on Trump. They want a third. It's pretty obvious. It seems now as Kamala's poll numbers continue to plummet and they become more and more desperate, their rhetoric is getting more and more extreme and more incendiary. And as I pointed out on X yesterday, I said it's official. It really is. The Democrats want Trump murdered. There's just no other way now to explain it. This is their ultimate insurance policy. They realize now they can't jail him, at least until the election. They can't bankrupt him. They can't defeat him at the polls. So kill him. It's not stopping. They're getting even more reckless. I want you to listen now. This is Gina Raimondo, Commerce Secretary under Biden, former governor of Rhode Island. I never liked her. She's a liar. She's a crook. She's corrupt. Well, listen to her now. Openly now say, it's time for someone to extinguish Donald Trump for good. This is her on Morning Joe on MSNBC. Roll cut 37, Mike.
And we don't need his baloney telling us he'll protect us. We know the facts of how he feels about women. He's disrespectful to women, putting it mildly. And he's the one that overturned Roe, exactly what you said. For me, when I was the governor of Rhode Island, I was one of the first governors in the country back in 2019 to codify Roe in state statute in Rhode Island. And at the time I did that, I worked with the legislature. It was because he was president and I feared exactly what would happen. And I said that women of Rhode Island would be protected. That's real protection, stepping up and leading. What he says is the opposite. It's just another lie. Like, how did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good. We have an answer. We have a remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who's pragmatic, who's open. Let's just get it done.
And extinguish, you mean vote him out?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Vote him out. Banish him from American politics.
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
just vote him out so he goes away.
Right. No, we know exactly what she meant. We're not stupid, okay? Not after 2 assassination attempts. Not after the Dems' constant lies about, existential threat to democracy. He's Hitler. He's going to be a dictator. Exactly, Mike. You nailed it. She needed the host. She needed Mika Brzezinski to come in and basically, right? You mean politically, right? Right? Oh, yeah. They want him. Look, they're saying it now as loudly and clearly as they can possibly say it. They're practically, as I said on X, they're practically begging someone now. Kill him. Take him out. Now, look, I'm sorry. Enough is enough. This has got to stop. Where the hell is the Secret Service? You cannot make threats to murder the president or to call for someone to murder and extinguish the president of or a former president of the United States. It's illegal. Why is it the Secret Service should visit this pathetic hack, this corrupt, lying hack, who, by the way, drove Rhode Island into the ground and has been a disastrous commerce secretary, okay? But let that go. They should pay her a visit and tell her, you're going to resign. You're out. And get ready. We're pressing charges. You're going to go to jail. Like, this has got to stop. They're openly breaking the law, calling now for the murder of President Trump. They're doing it now on cable news. And because I'll tell you why. She's a surrogate for the Kamala campaign. She knows the internal poll numbers better than anybody else. Arizona is gone. Nevada is gone. Pennsylvania is gone. Georgia is gone. North Carolina is gone. Michigan is gone. Okay, that's what their internals are showing them. So, someone's got to extinguish him. Someone's got to take him out. Like, what are we running what is this, a mafia operation now we're running, Gina? What, are you getting this from The Sopranos? Someone's got to whack him. The Secret Service, really, seriously, the Secret Service now, do your job, man. Because I'll tell you this. Forget a commerce secretary, which is a major cabinet position. If Jeff Kuhner went on the air and said, hey, someone's got to extinguish Kamala good once and for all. Someone's got to extinguish Joey once and for all. Someone's got to extinguish Barack Hussein Obama once and for all. Especially in the wake if there were 2 assassination attempts. What was it? What was the last one? What, 10 days ago? 11 days, whatever it is? The first one, you shot him in the face, man. Like, so, really. So, I would respect them more if they would stop playing these games and say, okay, look, kill him. Okay? Kill him. There's a bounty on him. The FBI released a letter. There's a bounty. You want a quick $150K? and you want to go down in history as a hero, take him out. I want to ask all of you, should the Secret Service now go after and investigate Gina Raimondo for calling for the execution and murder of President Trump? Should she now lose her position, be forced to resign, and yes, be charged with inciting violence against either a sitting or former president, which I want to repeat is illegal? 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Deborah in Boston. Thanks for holding, Deborah, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Deborah, how are you?
Your favorite right-wing extremist liberal.
And by the way, the fittest person in Kuhner country, right? Fittest and healthiest.
So, a couple things. I heard you a couple of weeks ago. When we talk about liberals, we very often, understandable, like, we talk about, like, how stupid they are. Oh, my God, these people. And you said, I just hit them with the facts. And there's actually, like, brain science, neurology, about how people make decisions. And it's actually more emotional than facts-driven. I mean, if it was just about facts, everybody would have washboard abs, right? But I just wanted to tell you a couple. I met a woman on the beach last week. I go up there and run, a few times a week. She was very nice. We were just talking, business and life and whatever. And I really liked her. She was great. And then I saw her again a couple days later, and we kept talking. And then, of course, politics comes up. Everybody is talking about everything going on in the world. And, she kind of sounded like a typical, orange man. And I just want to tell you, like, instead of screaming facts in her face, I was actually really proud of myself because, I'm subject to it, too. I want to yell at how stupid everybody is. I listened to her, and, I connected RFK Jr. and his running mate, Nicole Shanahan. And I don't know. She was listening to every word I said because we already liked each other, But I said something about RFK, and she's like, "Oh my God! He came out and endorsed Trump. I just can't even believe it." And I said, "Did you listen to the speech and why he's endorsing Trump? You should listen to it. Are you on Twitter? No. Get on Twitter and follow RFK and listen to what he says, rather than what the media says about him." And she actually said, "Oh my God, you're the second person to say that to me." I think that might be the key to reaching these, former, liberals that are slightly open-minded, is pointing them to RFK and his speech. Because he talks about a lot more than...
No, interesting. No, Deborah, you're making a really, really good point, and a fascinating point. A, be kind, right? Don't get angry. Don't get overheated. And look, RFK or Tulsi Gabbard or, Elon or, in other words, liberals or former Democrats, and say, listen to them. Just take a look. You'll be surprised. Thank you for that call, Deborah. And down the stretch we come. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. 617-266-6868. If you want to be part of the show. Dave in Salem. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Jeff, how are you?
Good, very good, Dave.
Listen, I think it's a great idea that Kamala be president right now. In fact, after the debate where Biden fails, I thought she should be president then. Remember, she's not a gal that likes a lot of work. She's all about being the first this, first that, first this, first that. She doesn't stay in one place. So she really doesn't want the responsibility and all the bad crap that comes with being president, because when things go bad, you get blamed for it. Now, she doesn't want that. I had hoped that they would put her in right after the debate, and that it would be getting her resume up to snuff, being president, first this, first that, as a president, and it'd be pretty much what she wanted anyways. And I don't think she has any intentions of being president for 4 years. And I know that Biden's been skating for 4 years because the Obama people are running the country. And he was a perfect puppet. Now, she's a perfect puppet, too, but she doesn't like to be criticized, and she doesn't want a legacy in history where, you know, she's part of World War II because of what they're doing in the Ukraine. So I think that I would love to have her president now, because now you can say, well, what are you doing on day one? And Trump's agenda is better than everything to do with Biden. So I would love her to be in there now. In fact, I would have loved her to be here in there months ago when the debate debacle for
that's a great point. Dave, really, that's a really, really good point. I got to say, look, I think you're onto it. I think you put your finger right on it. She's such a disaster that, you know, you're right. She keeps saying you're right. It's just that's the only answer she has to everything. Well, you know, on day one, I'll turn the border around on day one. Well, why haven't you done it already? Well, I'm just the VP. You know, well, Biden threw her under the bus saying, no, I delegated everything to her. She was my co-president. Okay, but let that go. Everything is inflation day one, economy day one, the border day one, crime day one, everything on day one. Nothing now, just day one. Well, okay, get her in early, get rid of Biden, replace him with her. Okay, day one, what are you doing? Nothing. Because she's completely and utterly incompetent. And Trump will just hammer her day after day after day. She will shrivel in the White House. Because you're right, she can't take the heat. She can't take the criticism. She can't even do an interview. Like, let's be serious. All of us, you know, as the French would say, entre nous, among us, okay? Among us girls. She can't do an interview. Now, if you can't do an interview, how the hell are you going to stand up to Putin and the Ayatollahs and Xi Jinping? Who are we kidding? Look, I can't believe this is going to come out of my mouth now. Do you know that Biden is actually better than her? I think Trump even said that. He goes, oh, he was a disaster, but she's going to be even worse. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Biden is the worst president we've ever had. To me, there's no question about it. Full stop. She would be even worse. How you can be worse than the worst, I don't know, but this woman is it. And then, Dave, really, I got to say, rarely am I horrified when a caller mentions something. It rarely happens to me. But when you said, you know, Jeff, she may not serve out her 4 years. Like, just say she wins in November. They steal it in November. Like, Biden's been skating, as you put it, for 4 years. Well, she's going to be skating for 4 years because she's so brittle. She's so thin-skinned. She's so obviously an empty vessel who's so out of her league that she may pop, she may leave, she may melt down at any time. And then I'm thinking, Tim Walz? Can you imagine Tiananmen Tim? Tampon Tim? As president of the United States? We all better start learning Chinese. Hi-yi-yi. Like, really, the thought is almost, no, please, I don't even want to go there. Dave, thank you very much for that call. Frank in Bedford. Frank, I've got 2 minutes. I hate to do this to you. The floor is yours. Go.
Thank you. Okay, that B. Diddy situation is a perfect opportunity for us. TikTok has thousands of pictures of her partying with her. So why don't we play the playbook? and turn around and shift it over to an investigation on her. How do we do that? We got to get the word out in all the states to post these pictures, put them on telephone poles all over the place to say it's time to wake up, America. Guess who you're voting for? A woman that's been partying with B. Diddy and all the swamp. That's why Hollywood is going into hiding, because they don't want to tie her in with Oprah Winfrey, child trafficking, and all the bullcrap. What do you think, Jeff?
Oh, Frank, I love it. What a way to end the show. Look, Oprah partied with Diddy. She knew what was going on, all that sex trafficking, what they were doing to those kids at those freak-off parties. Obama bragged about how you haven't been to a party until you've been to a Diddy party. Michelle Obama partied with Diddy. Kamala partied with Diddy. This is the scandal that can break the whole thing wide open. And I agree with you. If I'm Trump and the Republicans, you tie them all to P. Diddy. Where did the show go by today? It flew. I gotta go to the callers. Outstanding. Bye-bye.